The I can statement is N14. I can subtract rational numbers. So just a quick reminder that will be helpful on the homework assignment for this standard, that when it says in the directions, find the distance between two numbers on the number line, that means that you can subtract, but you're just looking for that positive distance, okay? So for example, we have -3 and +5. If I counted on the number line, I would get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 spaces in between. And if we compute this as 5 subtract -3, we also get 8. So you can either use the number line method or you can just do the computation. Similar with 2 and 4, we would do 4 minus 2 to give us 2. Or on the number line, we count 1, 2 spaces. The steps for subtracting fractions are: first, convert all mixed numbers into improper fractions, find the least common denominator, subtract the numerators only, bring the denominator over, and find equivalent expressions. So let's go through those steps one at a time. So to convert mixed numbers into improper fractions, remember I'm going to multiply the whole number in front by the number of pieces. That's our denominator. So 2 times 3 is 6. Then I'm going to add those 6 pieces to the 2 that we have from our fraction part. So 6 plus 2 is 8. So I have 8/3. 1 times 6 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So I have 7/6. And I am subtracting. The next step is to find the least common denominator. In this case, that's going to be 6, because I can keep the 6 the same, and I can multiply the top and the bottom of the first fraction by 2. 2 times 3 being 6. 2 times 8 is 16. So this becomes my new problem. 16/6 subtract 7/6. Then I'm going to subtract the numerators only. So 16 subtract 7 is going to be 9. Then I'm going to keep my denominator, so it's going to be 9/6. Then I need to find equivalent expressions or simplify. Since the top number is bigger than the bottom number, that lets me know that I have at least one whole number. So 9 divided by 6 is 1, with a remainder of 3/6, which simplifies to 1 and 1/2, because 3 is half of 6. So 1 and 1/2 is my final answer for this example. All right, I want you to try the next 2 problems on your own and then start the video back up when you are ready to check your answers. One important thing to note before you get started is that you will want to pay attention to our integer rules when you get to that subtraction step. For example, I see in this second problem that I have 2 negative signs. So I want to make sure that I take that into account when I'm doing the subtraction step. Go ahead and try these on your own. All right, let's take a look at number 1. 15 times 1 is 15. 15 plus 14 is 29. I keep the denominator, so I have 29 over 15, and I'm going to subtract 1/3. The next thing I need to do is find a common denominator. I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom of the second fraction by 5, so I get 29/15, subtract 5/15. Then I'm going to subtract the 2 top numbers, so 29 subtract 5 is going to give me 24/15. And then I am going to simplify. 24 is bigger than 15, so I know that I'm going to have 1 whole, and I will have 9 left over, 9/15. I can divide the top and the bottom of that fraction by 3, so I simplify to a final answer of 1 3/5. For the second problem, There aren't any mixed numbers, so I can proceed straight to the next step, finding a common denominator. With 2 and 9, the least common denominator is going to be 18. So I'm going to start by taking the first fraction and multiplying top and bottom by 9, and then the second fraction I'll multiply top and bottom by 2. So I will end up with negative 9 over 18, subtract negative 10 over 18. Okay, so when I am subtracting straight across, remember this is negative 9, subtract negative 10. Okay, when I use keep, change, change, this becomes plus a positive, so I have negative 9 and positive 10. So if I owe $9 and then I get paid $10, that's like I have $1 left over, or 1/18. And since 10 was bigger than 9, that's how I know it's going to be positive. So 1/18 is my answer for this problem. Okay, try these next two in the calculator. Remember, you're going to type the whole number, in this case 1, then you'll press ABC, then you'll press 14, then ABC, then 15, subtract 1, ABC, 3. When I type that into the calculator, I get in the display 1 with the unit space and then 3/5. So for my final answer, I'm just going to write 1 3/5. Okay? If I type number 4 into the calculator, I do want to make sure that I use the minus sign, or sorry, the negative sign for the negatives, and that I use the subtract sign for the operation. So those are two different keys that you want to make sure that you use correctly. And when you type it into the calculator, you should get as your final answer 1/18. Now let's take a look at subtracting fractions. So our steps are to line up the decimals, add extra zeros if necessary, bring the decimal down, and subtract. So let's take a look at this problem. I'm going to line up the decimals. So 2.6 and 1.46. Then I'm going to add a 0 here so that I have the same number of place values. Then I'm going to subtract and bring the decimal down. So I'm going to have to borrow in this case. So I'm going to have 5 tens and then use 1 10, or regrouping as you might have learned it. 10 minus 6 is 4. 5 minus 4 is 1, and 2 minus 1 is 1. So 1.14 is my final answer for this one. Now, with these problems, when we are subtracting negatives, remember that sometimes we change that into an addition problem, and sometimes we will need to use addition to compute the number part of our answer, and then use what we know about the rules with positive and negative numbers to find the sign for our answer. So remember when I have a negative and then I subtract from that negative, it's actually like we take the number part of our answers and add them together because we're just adding more in the negative direction. So when I do the actual computation for number 5, I'm just going to remember that my final answer needs to be negative, but then I'm going to add the number part of my numbers. So I'm going to add 2.05 and 3.555, and my final answer should be negative. I'm going to fill in an extra 0. I'm going to add straight down. So I have 5. I'm going to carry 1 for 10. So I have 6. And then I have 5. So 5.605, that is negative, is my final answer. Now in the next example, when I'm subtracting a negative using keep, change, change, this becomes a straight up addition problem, and my final answer will stay positive. So 3.93 plus 6.7, I'm going to add in a 0, bring down the decimal, so I have 3. 9 plus 7 is 16, so I'm going to carry a 1. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10.63 is my final answer on this one. Go ahead and type these into the calculator to see if we got the same answer. Remember the difference between the negative and the subtract on the calculator. So this is a negative and this is a negative. The rest are subtract. Okay, so we get negative 5.605 and we get 10.63 as our final answers for these two. So we've just verified on the calculator that we got the correct answers previously. Tubs of ice cream are delivered to a store at a temperature of 36.7 degrees Fahrenheit. The ice cream is stored at negative 40 degrees Fahrenheit in a freezer. When a tub is brought out of the freezer, its temperature is 22.2 degrees Fahrenheit. How much did the temperature of the ice cream change? So the first thing we want to do with this problem is determine which of the temperatures given to us are the temperatures of the ice cream. So when we take a look at it, the first temperature, this 36.7, is our starting temperature, and the 22.2 degrees is our ending temperature. So notice the negative 40 degrees is telling us about the freezer. So it is unnecessary for this particular problem. So don't let that confuse you. Just because there are 3 numbers doesn't mean you have to use all 3. So we're going to take starting temperature, subtract our ending temperature, 22.2. We're going to subtract those. You can do this by hand or with the calculator. And we will end up with 14.5 is our final answer. Remember, you can watch the video and review it as many times as you need to make sure you understand this concept. Thanks for watching.